What if the real power isn't in what you say, but in what you choose to hold back in a world addicted to noise? The rarest and most dangerous skill is silence. This isn't weakness, it's strategy. Every word you don't speak builds mystery, authority, and control. While others rush to fill the void, you command attention by saying less and meaning more. Learn how silence shifts power in your favor, makes people reveal themselves, and positions you as the one truly in control. Speak less. Observe more. Win without effort. Let me begin by dismantling a common illusion. We are conditioned to believe that power belongs to the loudest voice in the room, the one who dominates conversations, who always has something to say, who fills every silence with words. But look closer, and you'll notice something far more interesting. The person who truly controls the room is often the one who speaks the least. Silence is not the absence of strength, it is the refinement of it. When you don't feel the need to constantly assert yourself, you signal something deeper, certainty. You are not trying to convince, impress, or chase validation. You are grounded, and people sense that immediately. Think about it. When someone talks excessively, what happens? Their words begin to lose value. They reveal too much, too quickly. Their emotions leak out. Their intentions become obvious. There is no mystery, no tension, no reason for others to lean in. But when you restrain your words, when you allow pauses, when you choose not to react instantly, you create presence. You create gravity. Silence forces people to pay attention. It shifts the dynamic. Instead of you seeking approval, others begin to seek yours. They start wondering, what are you thinking? Why aren't you reacting? What do you know that they don't? And in that moment, without saying a single word, you've altered the balance of power. Understand, this clearly silence is not about withdrawal. It's about control. It's about choosing your moments with precision. The powerful individual speaks when there is something worth saying, not simply to fill space. Their words land harder because they are rare. They don't compete for attention, they command it. And there's another layer to this. Silence protects you. It prevents you from saying things driven by impulse, anger, insecurity, the need to prove yourself. Most people damage their position, not through action, but through unnecessary words. They reveal their strategy, their emotions, their weaknesses. Silence, on the other hand, gives you time to observe, to calculate, to respond instead of react. Intentions, your emotions, your level of control, it all leaks out in ways you don't fully notice. Most people talk as a reflex. They feel the need to explain, to justify, to prove their intelligence or their value. And in doing so, they give away far more than they gain. They reveal their insecurities in the way they over-explain. They reveal their impatience in how quickly they interrupt. They reveal their need for approval and how often they seek agreement. It's all there, hidden in plain sight. When you speak less, you interrupt this pattern. You begin to control what is revealed. And just as importantly, what is concealed. You are no longer predictable. Others cannot easily read your next move, your emotional state, or your intentions. This creates a subtle but powerful tension. People are drawn to what they cannot fully understand. They pay closer attention. They analyze you. And without realizing it, they begin to give you more importance. There is a kind of advantage in being slightly unknown. Think of it like this. When someone shows all their cards immediately, the game is over. There's no strategy left. But when you hold back, when you reveal selectively, you create room to maneuver. You can adapt, observe, and decide your next move with clarity, while others are already exposed. And here is where it becomes even more powerful. While you are revealing less, others begin revealing more. Silence has a way of inviting confession. People are uncomfortable with empty space in conversation. They rush to fill it. Often without thinking, they elaborate. They justify. They say things they didn't plan to say. And in those moments, if you are attentive, you gain insight, real insight into who they are, what they want, and where they are vulnerable. You learn far more by listening than by speaking. This doesn't mean you become cold or distant. It means you become deliberate. When you do speak, your words are measured. You say just enough to guide the interaction, to maintain connection, but never so much that you lose your position. You remain composed, slightly out of reach, always in control of the narrative you present. People will try to pull more out of you. They will ask questions, test your reactions, look for signs, and you must resist the urge to give everything away. Not out of fear, but out of discipline, because the moment you start speaking without intention, you begin to lose that edge. Control is not about dominance. It's about restraint. And once you master that restraint, you realize something profound. You don't need to say everything to be understood, and you certainly don't need to say everything to be respected. In fact, the less you reveal, the more you control what others believe about you. Once you begin to hold your silence with intention, you'll notice something subtle but incredibly revealing about human nature. People are deeply uncomfortable with it. A pause in conversation, a moment where no one speaks, creates tension, and most individuals rush to dissolve that tension as quickly as possible. This is where the advantage quietly shifts to you. When you resist the urge to fill that space, others will do it for you. They will talk more than they planned. They will explain more than necessary. They will reveal details they hadn't intended to share, not because they are careless, but because silence presses on them. It nudges them to react. Watch closely in any conversation. Ask a simple question, then stop. Hold eye contact. Say nothing more. You'll see it happen almost instantly. The other person begins to elaborate, to justify, to expand. They feel the need to make the space less awkward, to regain control. And in that effort, they expose themselves. This is not manipulation. It's awareness. Most people think influence comes from speaking persuasively, from having the perfect argument or the most compelling words. But often influence comes from saying less and allowing others to reveal their position fully. When they speak at length, they not only share information, they commit to it. They anchor themselves to what they've said, and that gives you clarity you can use. You begin to see their motivations, their fears, their desires. You notice contradictions. You hear what they emphasize and what they avoid. These are not things you can extract by talking over them. They only emerge when you give them space created by your silence. There's also a deeper psychological effect at play. When you remain calm and quiet while someone else continues speaking, you create a subtle imbalance. They begin to feel slightly exposed, slightly uncertain. They may even wonder if they've said too much, and in that moment, your presence becomes stronger without you doing anything. You are not chasing the conversation. It is moving towards you. And because you are not rushing, not reacting impulsively, you have time to think, to observe, to choose your next move carefully. While they are revealing, you are understanding. While they are reacting, you are positioning. This is especially powerful in moments of negotiation, disagreement, or tension. The instinct is to defend, to argue, to respond immediately. But if you pause, if you let the silence stretch just a little longer, you'll often find the other person softens, adjusts, or even contradicts themselves. Silence becomes a mirror. It reflects people back to themselves, and the more they speak into that mirror, the more they show you who they really are. So don't rush to fill every gap. Don't be afraid of that brief discomfort. Let it exist. Let it work for you. Because in those quiet moments, while others are trying to regain control, you are already holding it. The one who can sit calmly in silence is the one who makes others speak their truth. There is another layer to this that is often overlooked, and it may be the most important of all. Your ability to control your words is inseparable from your ability to control your emotions. Most people believe they are thinking when they speak, but in reality, they are reacting. A comment irritates them, and they respond instantly. A situation makes them anxious, and they begin explaining, defending, filling the air with unnecessary words. In those moments, it is not logic guiding them. It is impulse. And impulse is where power is lost. Every time you react without pause, you hand control of yourself to someone else. They trigger you and you obey. They push a button and you respond exactly as expected. There is nothing strategic about that. It is predictable, and predictability is weakness. Silence interrupts this cycle. When you train yourself to pause before speaking, Even for a few seconds, something shifts. That small gap gives you distance from the emotion. Instead of being inside the reaction, you begin to observe it. You notice the anger rising, the urge to defend, the impulse to prove a point, but you don't immediately act on it. And in that restraint, you regain control. This is not easy. It goes against your instincts. The mind wants resolution, expression, release. It wants to say something now. But discipline is built in that. That very moment when you feel the pressure to speak and you choose not to. What happens next is critical, because when you don't react instantly, you create space for clarity. You can ask yourself, is this worth responding to? What outcome do I actually want here? What will my words achieve, and what might they cost me? Most conflicts escalate not because of the situation itself, but because of uncontrolled words. A careless sentence spoken in the heat of the moment can damage trust, expose insecurity, or lock you into a position you later regret. Once spoken, words cannot be retrieved. They linger. They define how others see you. Silence, on the other hand, is reversible. It gives you options. It allows you to choose your response with precision. Sometimes that response is measured and calm. Sometimes it is direct and firm. And sometimes the most powerful response is no response at all. Not every provocation deserves your energy. Not every opinion requires your engagement. When people realize they cannot easily provoke you, something changes. They become more cautious. They lose the ability to control the interaction. And you, without raising your voice or asserting dominance, begin to shape the direction of the exchange. This is emotional control in its most practical form, not suppressing what you feel, but deciding what you do with it. And over time, this discipline compounds. You become less reactive, more observant, more deliberate. Your presence becomes steadier. Your words, when you finally choose to use them, carry intention rather than impulse. That is where real authority comes from. Because in the end, the person who governs, their tongue governs their emotions. As you begin to practice this discipline, speaking less, observing more, you'll notice a shift not just in how you feel, but in how others perceive you. There is a certain allure that forms around those who do not reveal themselves too easily. It's subtle, but powerful. People are drawn to what they cannot fully explain, to what remains just slightly out of reach. Most individuals overshare without realizing it. They narrate their thoughts, explain their every move, and expose their intentions in real time. In doing so, they remove any sense of intrigue. There is nothing left to discover, and when there is nothing left to discover, attention fades. But when you begin to hold back, when you allow pauses, when you reveal selectively, you create space for curiosity. People start to wonder about you. They listen more closely when you do speak. They look for meaning in your words, in your expressions, even in your silence. You become someone they try to read, to understand, and that effort they invest increases your value in their eyes. Mystery is not about deception. It's about restraint. It's about understanding that not everything needs to be said. Not every thought needs to be shared. You give just enough to maintain connection, but you leave room for interpretation, and that room is where intrigue lives. Think about the individuals you found most compelling in your life. Rarely are they the ones who dominate every conversation. More often, they are composed, measured, slightly reserved. They speak with intention. They listen deeply. There is a calmness about them that suggests depth, and that depth invites respect. When you speak less, your words begin to carry more weight. People remember them. They replay them because they are not diluted by excess. You are no longer just part of the noise. You stand apart from it. There is also a psychological dynamic at play. When you are not constantly expressing your thoughts, others begin projecting onto you. They assign meaning, intelligence, even authority based on the limited signals you provide. And while they are busy interpreting you, you remain in control of what is actually revealed. You are shaping perception without force. This is why silence combined with selectivity creates presence. Not the kind that demands attention, but the kind that naturally attracts it. You don't need to prove your importance. It is felt. Of course, this requires balance. You are not withdrawing completely, nor are you becoming distant or cold. You are engaging, but on your terms. You are choosing when to speak, what to reveal, and what to keep to yourself. That choice is where your power lies. And over time, people begin to respond differently to you. They interrupt you less. They listen more carefully. They take your words seriously because they know you do not speak lightly. You become someone whose presence carries weight even in silence. And in a world where everyone is trying to be seen and heard, the one who remains composed, measured, and slightly mysterious becomes impossible to ignore. As all of this comes together, it leads you to a final discipline, one that separates those who simply understand. These ideas from those who actually embody them. It is not just about speaking less, it is about speaking with purpose, because silence by itself is only half the equation. What truly gives it power is what you choose to say when you finally break it. Most people speak out of habit. Words become a reflex, filling space, maintaining comfort, avoiding awkwardness. There is no intention behind them, no direction, and because of that, their speech carries little impact. It's scattered, forgettable, easily ignored. But when you begin to treat your words as something deliberate, something measured, everything changes. You start asking yourself before you speak, what is the function of this? Am I trying to inform, to influence, to clarify, to connect? Or am I simply reacting, trying to be heard, trying to prove something? That awareness alone filters out a vast amount of unnecessary speech, and what remains becomes sharper. When you speak with purpose, your words are fewer, but they land with precision. They move the conversation forward. They shape outcomes. People begin to associate your voice with clarity, not noise. And over time, they learn something important. When you speak, it matters. This creates a kind of anticipation. Others listen more closely because they know you are not speaking casually. You are not wasting words. There is thought behind what you say. And that thought gives your words weight. There is also a discipline in saying only what is needed and nothing more. Many people dilute their message by over-explaining, by adding unnecessary details, by trying to cover every angle. In doing so, they weaken their own position. The core idea gets lost in excess. Precision, on the other hand, strengthens impact. A single, well-placed sentence can carry more force than a long explanation. It stays with people. It lingers. It invites reflection. And because you have not overwhelmed them, they are more likely to absorb it. This is where silence and speech begin to work together. Silence creates space. Purposeful words fill that space with meaning. One without the other is incomplete, but together they form a kind of rhythm, a balance between restraint and expression. You also begin to notice that not every moment requires your input. Sometimes the most strategic move is to let others speak, to let situations unfold, to observe without interfering. And when you do choose to speak, it is because the moment calls for it, not because you feel compelled. This is how you maintain control. You are no longer reacting to the flow of conversation. You are guiding it. You are not adding to the noise. You are shaping the signal. And that distinction is what separates influence from distraction. Over time, this becomes part of your presence. You don't need to remind people to listen. They already do, because they understand on some level that your words are chosen, not automatic. And in that understanding, your influence grows quietly, steadily, without force. Because in the end, power does not come from speaking more. It comes from knowing exactly when and why to speak at all. Master the art of silence, speak less, and control everything. What if the loudest person isn't the most powerful, but the most exposed? In every room, there's an unseen force, the one who doesn't rush to speak, doesn't chase attention, yet somehow controls the energy. That force can be you. Silence isn't empty, it's loaded with intent, observation, and quiet dominance. While others reveal everything, you reveal nothing and gain everything. This is where influence begins, where respect is earned without demand, and where control becomes effortless. If you learn this, you won't need to compete. You'll quietly rise above it as you leave this moment. Remember, power isn't about how much you say. It's about what you choose not to say. In a world full of noise, Your silence can become your greatest weapon. Practice it, protect it, refine it, let others rush, explain, and reveal while you observe, understand, and move with intention. Over time, you'll notice something shift. People will listen more, respect more, and reveal more, without you asking. That is quiet control. If this changed the way you see communication, carry it with you, and let your silence speak louder than anything else ever could.